Hi, everyone. We are here with Kolena Customer Real Capital Solutions. This is Erin Ingram, Director of Business Systems. Erin, thanks so much for joining us. So just really quickly, if you could just introduce yourself and what your role is over there.
Hi, my name's Aaron Ingram. She introduced my title. I'm Director of Business Systems, and yeah, I work at a private equity commercial real estate investment management company in Louisville, Colorado, and I oversee pretty much our whole tech stack, so the infrastructure environment and also our data um, initiatives, which have recently included a lot more AI use cases. And so we've been looking at ways to create ROI from AI. And yeah, we've recently found Kolena.
Awesome. Thank you. So can you just give a quick overview of what Real Capital Solutions business focuses are?
Yeah, so we have about 2.8 billion in assets under management across the US, Mexico, and Canada. Um, we have a pretty wide capital interest, so we have a lot of industrial multi-tenant office, which is an interesting play, but we're getting really good basis on that. We're also in retail, and we do have some hotels and multifamily, so we have a pretty wide gamut of interest investment focuses. But right now, we've been acquiring value add multi-tenant office, and so we have a lot of um, commercial real estate leases that we need to evaluate.
Wow. Okay. I know you touched upon this before. What are your day-to-day responsibilities and how long have you been with the company?
Sure. So I have been with the company for 11 years. I actually started with our home building initiative. So we used to do some single family development. But at this point, yeah, I'm mostly engaged with working with our different departments like legal, asset management, acquisitions, and the treasury and accounting teams. And we identify um, kind of where people have issues and how we can save them time and how we can make our processes better. And so my day to day is generally like with a whiteboard and trying to figure out what people's processes are. And then once we understand those, we try to facilitate solutions using technology.
Love that.
Yeah.
So, before you came to Kalena, what were your biggest challenges with your team when you were managing your leases?
Yeah. So our issue for this use case was that we have a large acquisitions team compared to how many assets, so we're very selective on which deals we purchase. So we were processing a lot of leases. So we bought a mall in San Diego recently that had 150 tenants. Um, and so to process that number of leases, we were forced to kind of farm out the abstracts of those leases for the economics of the deals to third party, like either legal teams or services that did that. And the cost was pretty high. I think we were somewhere between 375 and $450 per lease that we were running. And we also found that the results that came back were very variable. So some people would do a great job and or would be too verbose. I think we got one back that had like an Excel file that was like down to zoom one. So like if you tried to print it, it was like 10 feet across. So yeah, we just had a lot of issues getting something consistent and also accurate back to the acquisitions team in a timely manner. And that kind of led us into the AI um, abstraction like research. And we actually, I think we've tried like, I want to say we've tried like 14 different products to do this with varying success. So we've done like the link squares and the ironclads and the Evisorts, semis. We've looked at the Thomson Reuters. We've looked at a lot of products. So yeah, I could give you some pain points on those products that we found, but or I could just see what else you got.
No, that's okay. Totally understand. So it sounded like really inconsistent, accuracy was low, and just the consistency was out of control. Was there a tipping point where you realized like this is just not sustainable, or was this a slow pain that just pushed you over the edge, I guess?
So I think it's like a dual purpose. So everybody knows if you're like anybody watching this who is in technology knows that like AI is thrown around by the board, and the board of directors really wants to see where you can add value. And we've kind of looked at chat bots, and you know it's kind of it's an interesting technology, but finding like use cases where you're actually creating like a revenue generator or creating actual savings was kind of one of the challenges. So this just was a big cost driver for our company. Um, we also have kind of aspirations to do abstracting for our existing portfolio. So we also have like about 1,000 tenants that we're renewing and extending and putting in new, and we actually don't even have a process for that. So what we've done is we identified, I don't know, I don't know how you define a pain point for something that doesn't exist, but it's a problem. But like our hope is to save money on the acquisition side. And then if we can create, a really nice streamlined process here, we could really help the teams out because for those existing leases, the finance team is looking at the lease itself, the asset manager team is looking at the lease itself, the legal team, and everybody's kind of spending a lot of time like looking at these actual documents. I think one of the things we are overcoming is like we we weren't necessarily automating a process using an AI tool. We are creating a process and then using AI to implement that tool. So it's kind of a little bit tougher than just like adding a technology on top. But the what we're finding is that for the abstracting process, we're on the acquisition side, we're kind of hitting our stride, and I've got a workflow, and we've really cut our processing time with other tools was like 2 hours for review, and I think we're down to like 17 minutes per like internal review for these things because it's just checking it. Um, but yeah, I think our process is starting to come together based on the fact that we have a tool that gives us a good output.
That's awesome. That is a huge time savings.
Yeah,
And I think that's a really important point too, that a lot of times people are a little bit afraid of AI taking over, but you guys are absolutely using it the way it's intended, where it's meant to augment your team and support your team, not take over your team.
yeah, exactly.
Really great. So how did you come across Kolena?
Oh, I probably get one or two emails a week from my coworkers from somebody who has, I think it was our stock portfolio manager sent me a voicemail from somebody on the Kolena team. And I tend to entertain them if they sound interesting. I think the pitch on just that one voicemail was like, "Hey, this is a commercial real estate focused system," and I saw a screenshot of it, and just the fact that it had like base year, pro rata share, And like for us, like the rent table is like has been the hardest problem to solve for. And so that's kind of what tipped us over to say, let's do the demo, let's look at this. But yeah, I mean, you guys reached out to us and we're kind of a special, I guess, facet because we have just a large, like, commercial real estate's kind of a unique business model. So having a product that is focused on our business model is really helpful. So
Absolutely.
that's kind of what interested us in the product.
Well, kudos to our outbound team.
Yeah,
Was there anything that you were a little bit skeptical about?
accuracy. So there's kind of like yeah, so there's kind of two big things with the commercial real estate leases, specifically, and other types of documents with amendments. So one is the fact that there's amendments.
Mhm.
So when you have multiple documents, most of these tools they'll say like, oh, well, you can somehow combine the results from multiple documents. Like we did the Salesforce MuleSoft combo, but they couldn't really like give you the best answer across the documents. So one thing we've been very skeptical of is whether a product can um, find like the current answer across multiple amendments. We tested a tenant with 14 amendments from 2001, and we were a little worried about, the page limits and um, basically could it tell like this, you know, this term came in the Seventh Amendment, this one came in the 12th Amendment, and it succeeded on that. So I was pretty surprised. So that was kind of our first, you know, general hesitancy around the tools, which this seems to have succeeded on. The other is the rent tables. If anybody's worked with tables in amendment documents, it might not find the right rent table. It might have the wrong headers. It might miss um, the rent amounts. And a lot of the software seems to basically collapse the text and then try to like turn it back into a table. But it seems like Kolena is actually reading the tables as tables, which we've found gives us like a much higher accuracy. And it even does, you know, if you have tried to do prompts, like give me the rent table, and I've written probably 25 different rent prompts. This one will like say like, oh, you actually have two rent tables, one for each suite, or you have a storage rent table, and it clearly delineates those. So that was kind of our big test. And so the fact that it's able to do the economics of the deal was like a huge, um, I guess, proof of concept for us.
Yeah. Well, great. I'm glad we performed. How was your onboarding experience with us?
So we have Mohammed, so I feel like we're probably a little bit spoiled. I think he's like the top guy.
Yeah.
And I think he has like a lot of energy and confidence. And so the good thing is he said he would do something and then like he did it. So I hate onboarding that takes too much work. So basically, they took, I don't know, 3 days from the contract to set up our environment. And then I'm literally able to create an agent on the fly. I say leasing agent, and now I'm doing like loan document. I can duplicate that, and then um, I paste in my prompt. And one of the coolest things I think about the product is there's this suggestion. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I click suggestion, and then it like kind of reconfigures my my prompt for something that the AI would ingest more happily. Um,
Hmm.
and I've had really good success for that. So the onboarding is great, and the other thing on the onboarding I like is if I have new data sources. So if I have new projects or new sources of data, I can add them to my environment in like about 1 minute. So it's pretty easy for me to like onboard a new project or onboard a new document type. If I'm just like brainstorming with somebody, I can say like, oh, you want to do rent rolls? Well, what about operating agreements? And then I can create an operating agreement proof of concept in like a 10-minute intro meeting and show them the output in live time. So pretty easy to use. I would say like within half an hour, I was able to create an output.
That's fantastic. It sounds like you
Yeah.
have a lot of confidence in the platform and just your ability to use the platform.
Yeah, so far so good.
Awesome. We're striving to keep it that way.
Yeah.
So I know you were saying it was really easy. Was it also really easy to integrate into your existing workflows?
Yeah, so we're a Microsoft shop.
Hmm.
So I think there's different types of sources you can use, whether it's like Dropbox or whatever else. But for us, um, we're using the SharePoint slash Teams integration. So I basically just created an output folder and everything lands there. Um, and I don't even remember how I connected it, but it was like I think Muhammad might have helped me set that up, but it might have taken like 2 or 3 minutes to get the initial one. But now I can just click new source, add a Teams folder, and then I just drop documents into it and they land in my output folder. So I've actually been able, all of my other tools I've used, I've had to like do them all myself because it's like, oh, I'm running a Python script and then I'm logging into Azure Cognitive Search or I'm formatting Excel file. And this one, I actually have the paralegal kind of self-servicing, which is a huge relief for me to not have to personally um, run the tool.
That's awesome. Um, so it sounds like it was really intuitive for you, not a lot of hiccups for training or onboarding. So I'm really happy to hear that. Um, I know you touched upon this a little bit, but which agents are you using the most right now? Sounds like lease abstraction. Anything else?
Yeah, the lease abstraction is definitely the core that we're using um, for the acquisitions team, and we're kind of expanding that use case a little bit. So we're trialing like a duplicated agent on a small subset to work with like CAM reconciliations for the property accounting team. So there's just so much that goes on with leases that for us, I think that agent has a lot of room to grow. There's just different teams that have different needs for it. Now, that said, we met with the property accounting team to do rent rolls. But we looked at our rent rolls and we have 15 different property managers. So we started looking across the rent rolls, and so we did run one and it does pull the data from the rent roll, but we determined like who cares what's in this, right? Because we have all of our like when leases come in, we like put them into our forecasting system. But then, we're like, what could this do for you? And so on the fly, we just kind of built a prompt that does fee agreements. So when we purchase a an asset, we need to like charge fees for our services, which is how we get paid. And it's usually a little bit shorter of a document, which is nice for our count. Um, and so we just built one on the fly, and now we kind of came up with a use case and have an agent for that. We have, we're building one for commercial real estate loans. So we do our debt forecasting, our DSCR testing with that tool. And so that one we've just started. I think there's a lot of like, um, the finance team is particular about their results and doesn't have much bandwidth, but like our initial checks on it are really positive. And we're actually been getting, now it's kind of like going around the office a little and like there's rumors. Like I had the tax team reach out to me like on Monday, and so now we're using it to do like it's like notices. So we'll get notices from different states and or federal on different properties, and there's like 6 pieces of data the tax team needs to fill out their forms. So seems pretty flexible. It doesn't really matter. I think anyone who's using documents and trying to use Control F or struggling with a scanned document, or yeah, scanned documents is, you know, basically now that the rumor's out, we're just getting emails of seeing people asking us what can it do, and we're having fun with it. So
That's great. I like that you're calling it the rumors. Um,
yeah.
so Kolena actually, I don't know if anyone told you this, means all together. And so
Okay.
the concept was bringing your entire organization together so that you can use this tool for different solutions in different departments. So
Cool.
yeah. So how did you feel? I know you said Mohammed was really confident and excited, but how do you feel the Kalena team was throughout your entire process and how we supported you?
So I will say one other thing that I found kind of interesting was the little chat on there, like the help chat.
Uh-huh.
So when we onboarded, um, I said, well, what do I do if I don't know how to do something? And Mohammed said, just there's a little like chat button. Um, and so, I think I couldn't get a prompt to work, or I had like things I didn't know how to do. Like um, I like initially was like, it was processing all of the documents in a folder, and I had to like click like, group by folder, right? You're just like learning the UI. And I really just like started just like hitting that chat, and somebody was messaging me back in the chat. It was either Mohammed or other people. It seems like it goes to like a bunch of people, but um yeah, I was getting like, I don't want to say like real time, but it felt like real time responses. Like I could work on something, chat, and then I was getting a response, and I was kind of surprised, and I was like, okay, well, I don't have to wait a week for someone to send me like an amorphous, generic, nothing, not helpful response. So yeah, that was probably the most surprising part about like the interacting with the team. But I think we've transitioned to our um, I don't know what you call them, our customer care team.
Or yeah, our customer success team. Yeah.
Okay, customer success, yeah. And it's been, yeah, helpful. We had, something we were trying to do. So initially when we were outputting the documents, it was giving us like a run number, like document 9842 or something. And I was like, this isn't helpful if I have 50 tenants that I need to process, right? I don't want numbers. I want to know like this is Cap Tech Partners, this is Hobby Lobby, this is, King Supers or whoever the tenant name is. And she's like, oh, well, we can make a template. And then, you know, we made a template, and now, within I think like 1 or 2 days, I started getting the files like fully named for me. So like I don't have to like open the file and figure out what it is and rename it. So yeah, I haven't really had an issue that I've come across yet. that has been like, oh, sorry, that's coming in on the roadmap. And
Right.
um, so yeah, I've had positive interactions, I have to say. It doesn't feel like I think there's like some scheduled check-ins, but it's not overbearing. I think some of these, I have another product where it's like they want to meet with me every week to ask how it's going, and I don't want to meet every week, you
Yeah.
know? So I feel like it's a decent mix of availability and proactive um, reaching out.
Oh, good to hear. I'll let Susan know for sure. So,
Yeah.
so thanks for sharing a lot about your company. How do you see AI transforming real estate in the next few years, or commercial real estate?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I do think that commercial real estate is a little bit old school generally. There's a lot of older processes. The number of bank accounts we have in commercial real estate, like the banks are even like not sure how to handle it sometimes. Um, but I feel like been, I think it's starting to change. I think like the like Yardi and MRI, the accounting systems, the like Anaplan and IBM, like the financial systems are getting a lot better with their APIs, so the interconnectivity is there. And then I think, has the ability to like sit on top of that. So I think companies right now, like you can't forget about the foundation. Like if you don't have good data governance, if you don't have good data quality, then none of these tools are going to like kind of reach their full potential. But I think for me, like our goal is to like not replace anyone. It's to increase throughput. So, you know, if I have an acquisition team that can just like instead of reading an operating memorandum or offering memorandum when they're onboarding a deal and then typing all of their numbers into their forecast, right? If they can just get that document and then AI can just load all of the information into our acquisitions models, like they're going to be able to underwrite more deals or, sniff test more deals. So, if we can double the amount, that's one of our other initiatives is like, can we double the amount of acquisitions we're looking at? Can we, you know, save money on the projects by knowing when all of our terms of our leases are in our whole existing portfolio? So I think for us, our use of AI for in the commercial real estate space is to allow us to do things that we couldn't previously do with our people. So it's basically just kind of supercharging what each person can do, and also try to give them more time thinking and making decisions and just like take away the redundant entries and like looking for things. So I think, for us, we're really pushing on AI to make tools to allow us to be more in a decision-making stance than you know, half of our life is finding the data and putting it in a different system.
Yeah. I think that's a really, really important point that you're discussing here is that AI is meant to just kind of be your little superpower so that you can be more productive. You can make better decisions, focus on things that are more relevant than mundane data entry. Um,
Yeah,
so what
definitely.
advice would, I know you talked about data quality, but what other advice would you give firms who are looking to adopt AI?
So okay, so I mean, data quality, I'll just stress it again. Like, so if you were doing a chat bot on all of your documentation, if you have three sets of it and they're old, it's only gonna be able to give you responses on how good the quality of your data is. I would shore up your access control policies. So, you don't want to necessarily have people um, having access to things via AI that they shouldn't.
Mhm.
And then, really like understand what your process is. So I think a lot of times people and teams are like, we really hate, our leasing process of how we like do leases. Let's get a software to help us. And I think that is almost the backwards approach. It really needs to be like, what, how would I do this without software at all? Right? And once you can understand what your process is without technology, then you can layer in tools that facilitate it. So you might have a step that's like transfer data from this system to that system. Bang, AI can do that. Get the information out of the lease to the acquisitions team. That can be AI. So I think what people need to do is figure out what the actual process is and then use AI where it's appropriate because it's not like especially generative AI is not going to like fix all of your problems. It's just one tool in your toolkit. Like you're going to use APIs to transfer information. Like you don't want AI for that. You want AI to do specific jobs. And I think it has a role. But first, you need to understand what the tasks are that you need to accomplish.
Yeah, that's a great aha moment. I think for a lot of people is understanding you, and you had said this before, you need a good foundation before you can start implementing AI into your systems. So,
Yeah, and
cool.
I would say one more thought though, like so when we're trying to like get budget, like if you're in the technology team and like you're talking to your leadership or the board and you're trying to like figure out a tool, you know, understanding your cost is important and being able to like quantify that is really helpful. So like if you want a tool, it's hard to be like, oh, we're just going to get a tool that will do leases. So we do kind of like a process timing. So sometimes it's hard. Like the leases is easy if we ship it out. It's like we pay 450 for this. So now we spend 17 minutes. So it's 450 minus 17 minutes of our internal layer, right? Which is a big savings, but it's not always going to be like that. So, generally what I'm looking for is like I'm asking team members like high frequency events that occur every month or at least quarterly, right? And understand how much time they're spending on that. And then you can kind of convert it into an ROI that you could justify the cost of some of these tools.
Fantastic. All right. Well, last question of the day. If you could describe Kalena in 3 words, what would they be?
Oh, okay. I didn't prepare for this one.
I heard
Okay.
you say fun earlier, which is interesting.
Yeah,
I think it's fun too.
I would say lightweight, accurate, and fun.
Fantastic. I'll take
How's
fun
that?
all day long.
Yeah, I'm having fun with it. So,
Good. I'm
yeah.
really glad to hear that. We need levity in our days. So,
Hey, truer words have never been spoken. So,
well, thank you for chatting with me today. I really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to growing our relationship for years to come. So, thank you.
yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Good luck, everyone.